now. All right, welcome to episode 2 of the PPBDL YouTube channel. With me tonight is my local 808 Island brother, Jared Demo LaRiviere. How's it going, Jared?
Oh, living the dream, man. It's hilarious that we live 10 minutes away from each other after we spent 3 years together in Colorado. So the Army's extra small.
Yep. And we actually run into each other. You were doing what, a hail and farewell or something, and I was
Yeah,
there just.
just amazing coincidence.
Yep. All right, so wanted to get you on the show before the amateur draft coming up in a couple days. So hopefully we can get this posted either tonight or early tomorrow. Quick recap of what we're going to do. We're just going to do some spring training notes, and then I got a fun game for you, over-under type of game. And then in the meat and potatoes of this is just going over the amateur draft coming up, and then we'll close out with a couple questions. You
That
ready?
sounds. I'm ready.
All right, so looking at spring training, injuries is always one of those you just kind of cross your fingers and hope for the best. And we've already seen some big name aces already going down with, Sevy going down, and then we've got the Griffin Canning news of hey, he's got to go check out a doctor. Sale's already reporting that he's going to start on the DL to start the season. So what are you looking at when you see spring training and hoping that your guys don't get injured?
Well, you just named off the pitchers, so I'll talk hitters. Giancarlo Stanton,
Oh
like you said,
yeah, yeah.
with the calf injury. A guy I traded this offseason, Max Kepler, he's probably going to start a little late because he was injured. Yeah, mainly I just scroll through MLB at bat and I look at which prospects are playing, which of my guys are playing, and then I just hope for the best. Um, Hopefully they only go out for 2 innings. Like AJ Puck. AJ Puck's a big one for me. He's only pitched 3 innings, and I watch him very closely coming back from TJ. So other than that, yeah, it's just hope and pray.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, the Sale one that doesn't scare me too much, mainly because I think he had pneumonia or the flu or something. So, you know, my hope is, and I'm sure a couple of the other guys, they see their guys getting ready to get placed on that DL. When is that transaction going to actually hit? Is it going to be before, right away, as soon as you send out that Sale news, I'm asking Josh, like, hey, when's the UFA draft? Because if I can get him on the DL, that's extra money in an extra spot. So I know there are a couple guys just kind of, monitoring the MLB transaction page or hoping they get that alert that says, like, oh, hey, your player's been placed on the DL officially. So
You're absolutely right. As soon as Jordan Hicks went to the 60, I messaged Josh and was like, take that $10 off, please. And I'm guessing Haniger is going to go on the 60. So as soon as he goes on the 60 IL, hopefully I'll get my $10 back from him too.
right on. So, with the spring training games, are you even watching any of them, or are you just, getting the highlights on Twitter feed? And I saw you posted the Hira hit a bomb text already. So, how closely are you watching these games?
About as closely as I can. I just
Oh,
finished
yeah.
that exercise with our Japanese allies, so that took up a bulk of my time. But even tonight, I had the hanging out with my family that's in town and my sons. I had the Rockies game. Playing the Giants, I had it up. And then I was watching the A's the other day, so as closely as I can. If I have a break at work, I throw it up on the computer,
All
just
right on.
listening.
All right, yeah. And it's kind of one of those. Your studs are usually playing 1 or 2 innings, if that. So it's really a good barometer to see some of these prospects that maybe we're going to be talking about a little bit later. Um, you know, Getting the playing time, and one of kind of a double-edged sword. Do you really want to see these guys, just go off right before our draft, and they're starting to come on everyone's radar? But it's a good showcase for all those young guys.
You're absolutely right. I've found 2 names that I'm already going to target after the draft because I know nobody's going to be tracking them,
Yeah.
but they have potential value. So you're absolutely right. I'm just hoping that most people aren't paying as close attention as I am.
All right, yeah, we should throw out the. We're gonna try to not spoil warning ourselves here. We'll try and keep it to some of the big names in the first round. I know you've got a bunch of picks coming up in this draft, and we'll get to it in a little bit. So we'll probably just do more of a wave top overview of some of the first round guys really. So for the rest of the spring training roundup, my big question, since I've got one and you've got one, and we're both wearing our Rockies gear and apparel, I need the resident Rockies expert to break down what am I going to do with Garrett Hampson, and is he going to contribute at all this year, or is it your guy Brendan Rodgers that's going to really get the some of the playing time there?
Right off the bat, extremely tough question. I think Hampson will get more playing time than Rodgers, but I don't think it's going to be at the positions we think.
Yeah.
McMahon, I'm partial to him because I have him, but way higher offensive output. But Hampson with the speed, if he gets to 500 at bats, I think Hampson's cracking the top 15 for second baseman easily just on that alone. Outfield time, probably pretty slim. Might get some of those Sunday day games when the starters get an extra day of rest. Yeah, I don't know what you're going to do. I love Hampson. I watched him from the minors, but I think Rodgers is probably going to be the backup at second with Hampson doing all the utility stuff.
Yeah, they just can't get rid of Ian Desmond. It's a giant contract, and he's just kind of standing in the way of a lot of young talent.
And it's so sad because he's such like a good person. Like if you follow him on any social media, he's like involved in the community, shouting out like kids with cancer and like helping them out raise money. So it's like I wish he was better than he is, but yeah, that $70 million we're paying him is just sucking up playing time for all the youngins.
All right, so we're going to transition from your team to my team. All right, I got a fun little game we're going to play here. So we're going to go with the Houston Astros hit by pitch tracker talk. I know, I think Ryan was the one that posted the Twitter feed of whoever the 2020 Houston Astros Twitter tracker. So in honor of that, I went and looked up all of the team records and single season player records for hit by pitches. All right. So we're gonna start with the team records, and I want you to either guess what the totals are, and then once you do that, then we'll see if how close you were, and then maybe we'll play a little over under on some of these. So the team record for single season hit by pitches. Any guesses?
You want team or amount?
No, just amount.
105.
Oof. All right. So they've got AL and NL in here, but the record is 148 by the 1898 Baltimore Orioles, and I don't even know if they're Baltimore at that point. And then the '08 Indians have the record for 103. So I guess, more real time, closer to our time frame here. 103 is probably the closest we're going to get. So over under, do you see, and if you do see, how early in the season are we going to see the Astros crush that record of 103?
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to take the over on that, especially seeing like some of this analysis is coming out where we're at like 1.40 hits per game, and that's just absurd. So I'm going to take the over, and probably within a couple weeks of the All-Star break.
Yeah. I mean, even if we want to go back to like historic 148, I think they're going to just fly by that too.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be against guys. You're going to get the Bregmans and Altuves, of course, but I think it's just going to be everybody. It don't matter.
All right, so moving on to the next one. The single game team record for hit by pitch total. What's your guess?
7.
Oh, so it's 6 by the 1913 New York Yankees.
Yeah.
All right, so the over-under is, do you think that record is broken by game 1 of the regular season?
I don't, because of how strict the MLB is going to hit by pitch rule.
All right, so yeah, we can. That's another question. Like, do you think that the MLB or the umps are going to kind of officiate this themselves, try and take it into their own hands of like, hey, we've seen in spring training the Astros are just taking it, they're getting hit, and they're just walking or running to first. Not making a big deal of it. So do you think that's how the regular season goes?
To an extent, yes. I think there's going to be some of those games, especially between some of their rivals, in-division rivals, and the Yankees for another. But I think the MLB is going to issue very strict warnings, and the officiating crews are going to try to police it. And then I'd probably say by about late May, early June, the Astros are sick of wearing those stripes.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to come down to an injury. If someone seriously gets hurt, then maybe that's when it's like, all right, let's kind of pump the brakes on this.
True, and I think the fantasy sports blogs are just going to explode with that type of shit. I mean, it's going to happen because OBP is going to go up.
I keep talking about it. All right, so the final team one. In a single inning, what is the team total for hit by pitches?
I'm going to say 4. I want to say 3, but I'm going with 4.
Bingo, 4 is correct. We're going back to the 1839 Red Sox. So maybe they were the Boston Black Sox at the time. I don't know what they were, but yeah. So I mean, we're talking over 100 years for most of these records that are about to get blown out of the water.
Yeah, that's that. Again, I don't know if that'll get broken simply because they're going to warn them, and then ejections are going to happen, and yeah, I don't know if we'll hit four, but we'll be close.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
can't
mean,
imagine that's intentional, especially, if the first three batters get up and they all get plunked, that pitcher's probably gone and now we're warming up, so.
oh, absolutely. And back then, I mean, who knows how control was? What is that? 190 years ago at this point?
Yeah.
92 years ago? Yeah, control probably wasn't there.
All right, so we're moving to single season player records now. So the single season record for hit by pitches.
I'm gonna guess it's Barry Bonds, and I'm gonna guess it's like 34.
Wow. All right. So he's probably on the more modern day records. So it's 51 by Huey Jennings. I have no idea who that is. Probably probably one of those older ones, but he actually leads all-time record as well at like 281. So
That's absurd.
yep. All right. So single game hit by pitches. What's the total?
3.
Nailed it. Yep. A bunch of guys did that. I think the most recent one was Tim LeCastro. So
Tim Castro. There he is.
all right, and the final one here, the single innings hit by pitch total.
It can't be more than 2.
All right, yep, nailed it. I mean, you think a lot of guys get hit once, right? But yep, 5 players have been hit in the same inning 2 times.
That's probably intentional as well.
Yeah. I mean, odds of you even getting up in an inning 2 times, can't imagine it, so.
Right.
All right, so the last thing, and I don't know if this is correct, but I've seen CBS Sports and a couple other guys. Vegas has odds for the first Astro hit. So who are you taking out of this? We've got Altuve at plus 300, Bregman at plus 350, Correa at plus 400, and then Springer, who I thought would be leading off, but he hasn't really been talked about a lot in this whole scandal, but he's at plus 500. So who you going with there?
So first person popped in my mind, Correa.
Yeah.
After his little media outburst and didn't take the championship, whatever, it's Correa.
Yeah.
I think he gets hit first.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't know what their lineup's going to look like this year. If they're going to just throw out like a sacrificial lamb as the first batter just because we know it's coming. But, if it's Springer, like I said, he hasn't been involved in a lot of this. I haven't seen his name out there. So hopefully, he's one of my favorites. But
yeah, Springer dingers are going to come back this year. But I'm pretty sure that it's going to be correct. That's who I would hit.
Yeah.
Granted, I was a fairly mediocre ball player, but that's what I would go with.
All right, and the last odds we've got is the which Astro is going to be hit by pitches most this season. Altuve is at plus 150, Bregman's at plus 200, Springer's at plus 400, and then Correa is at plus 500 on this one. So I got to imagine like Altuve and Bregman are definitely the clubhouse leaders in this one.
I'm going to say Bregman or Alvarez. I think Alvarez is going to catch some.
All right.
Just a thumper.
Yeah, maybe it's one of those like, he's a utility guy. He's going to be, if he gets hurt, maybe it's not as bad of a situation because
I think he's going to wear some seams for sure.
All right, so that takes us through our fun game. I was pretty impressed by some of these guesses. You nailed a lot of them, and then these records are 100 and 150 years old, so we'll see.
Yeah, because I had absolutely no idea we were going to play this. I've got my notes for the rest of the stuff we talked about. I had no idea on the over/under, so that was fun.
All right, so let's get to the main part of this. So talking about the amateur draft coming up. My first YouTube video, I threw your name out there a lot because I like a lot of what you do, and the guys that you pick, we're kind of on the same page with most of them. I mean, we were talking Trey Turner before this league even started and how much we were fans of him. So, you getting him really, I think I've been trying to trade for him the last 5 or 6 years, and it's not happening. So let's go over what's your process, coming up to this amateur draft. What are you doing? Who are you looking at? Without giving away too many secrets.
Of course. So when you asked this, the note I wrote down was, what's the process? So I wrote down as much data as possible on all positions, plus what I think my team will need in potentially 3 to 5. So if it's out there, as far as a prospect I like, I've probably looked at it. And then I think as far as the Trey Turner comment, I think you and I kind of think very similar on some of our hitting prospects. A little different on pitching.
Yeah.
I think we have a little different strategy, but I think we're kind of on the same wavelength because we've executed so many trades, including a huge one where I sent you Josh Donaldson back in the day.
Yeah.
Kansas and Archer and a couple other nice pieces. So really, it's as much data as I can possibly get. Plus, I look at other contracts of MLB stars for the rest of the league, and then I determine if I'll have a run at them, and then if not, can I plug in a prospect 3 to 5 years from now? So really, it's the long game, and just overload me with data.
Yeah, I was going through your team right before we started this, and you're pretty set on everything. I don't think I'm revealing too much when I say you're probably pulling Hira up. You can move McMahon over to third, and your lineup's essentially set. You've got $100+ to work with a couple guys, so you're probably going to get who you want. You've got 6 picks coming up, so I really want to just focus on that number 4 pick right now. What are you looking at? Who you hoping comes to you? And you know who I'm taking at 1, so you don't have to worry about me. We're going to assume Vaughn probably goes at 2 or 3. So who you really looking at for that number 4 spot?
Honestly, 4 is the hardest pick for me. I kind of have 10, and then I kind of have 4, 5, and 9 in the second round kind of mapped out. I think I can kind of get a couple people that I'm looking at, a couple guys. 4, I'm completely lost. I'm going to be almost beholden to 2 and 3 to determine what I do with it. So, I mean, Dominguez is a nice one, but I don't know if I can take Dominguez that early because, I'm going to have to pull him up while he's potentially still in the minors to avoid the Rule 5 draft for this league, being that he's so young. I love my shortstops. I know we'll talk about that later. So, Bobby Witt Jr., he's got star written all over him. C.J. Abrams. He's got Billy Hamilton's speed with a much better bat. I don't know. Rutschman could fall to me. I hate Orioles prospects, but because that organization is just terrible. But I mean, he's Buster Posey reincarnate. So I have no idea. There's 3 dudes that I'm honestly, truly looking at, and I don't know how it's going to fall. I mean, if Andrew Vaughn falls to me, I'll probably take Vaughn. If Rutschman falls to me, who knows?
Yeah, when I was sitting there at the 5 spot, I was really thinking, is Rutschman going to fall, or is someone going to take, the first couple picks with him? He's probably worth it. You have so much control on him, and yeah, he might be one of the highest paid catchers, but still at a position that it's not as bad as it was in the last couple years, and he's someone that can help you in all of our categories, especially with it being an OBP type thing. Yeah, what I'm focusing on for my catcher spot is just a guy that can't hurt me, but having someone that can help you, that's a big benefit. So I think that 4 or 5 range is probably as far as we're going to see him fall if he doesn't go at 3. And that's
agreed. If he doesn't go at 3, I'd be inclined to take him just solely off of upside.
Yeah.
He's probably the most solid bat to come out of the catcher position since Posey.
Yeah. And I think you make a great point with Jason Dominguez. He's someone that I wasn't tracking, and yeah, I was doing my Excel sheet on all of them, and everyone was starting to rank him higher and higher. And then I finally saw a picture and a video of him. I'm like, this kid's 16 years old. But you make a great point of he might not even be ready or in the majors by the time we've got to sit here and do a Rule 5 draft and bring him up. And that's $10 extra in a spot sitting on your roster that you can move back down after the season starts. But I've seen or heard a lot of guys talking about he's not making it past like 5 or 6. I know Josh isn't letting him fall past him if he somehow makes it that far. So
right, yeah, there's 2 guys that I don't think Josh will let fall at 8 because Josh is kind of the other linchpin for me. What he does at 8 will kind of dictate who I take at 10. But yeah, it's just one of those things of can you wait and is he going to have a spot to play? Like, 2 of those spots are pretty much sewn up. I mean, Stanton's there forever. You can only DH him, and Judge, you can only swap them so much. So yeah, I don't know. Clint Frazier, I mean, another guy who's kind of fallen from grace a little bit, but a top prospect. I don't know. I don't know if I can if he comes to me at 10, I would probably take him and take a flyer. But, 4 might be too high for him because Rule 5.
Yeah. All right, my first video, I kind of went through the top 10 on average at the time, and a couple of them have moved, and maybe we've seen one or two pitchers come up, but where do you see pitchers shaping up in this first round? I know last year we had four or five guys jumping up to grab these, stud pitchers, and a lot of them are really panning out, or at least, they've stayed healthy and they're going to start contributing shortly. So do you see a lot more pitchers going than one, maybe two, or is it going to really just be the young, stud hitters?
I think because this is such an offensive heavy draft, we're going to see a lot of hitters. We'll see probably one, maybe two pitchers in the first round would be my guess, and it's going to be those high names like Manning or something like that. I think the second and third rounds we'll see a little bit more, but the potential to miss out on some of those hitters is just. I think our draft's going to be bonkers. I know we've got a note to talk about the first round. I think it's either going to be smooth and everything kind of goes how we predict, or it's just going to be an absolute shit show with draft picks flying everywhere and stud prospects flying off the board.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see, Josh had talked about making the timer, one or two more minutes or something like that, so we can actually get some trade chatter, and it could happen, with me, you, and Josh all having multiple picks in the first round. And some of these guys, if they start to fall, and maybe a guy that doesn't have a lot of picks, wants to jump up, I think that additional couple minutes is really going to help. So I'm excited to see how that first round and even the second round shapes up. I know you've got like 3 picks in the second round, and you've already got your guys for that, but I got a feeling, when I start doing my post draft analysis, I'm going to be sitting here thinking, man, there were a lot of pitchers that fell in that second and third round that are just great values and steals, a lot like last year's draft, where I thought, those second, late, or early third rounders, that's where all the value was. So I got to imagine that some of those pitchers are going to get pushed up a little.
I could see it. Like I said, I think it's either going to kind of go how we think it's going to go, or it's just going to be bonkers. But if I see more than 2 pitchers in the first round, I think I'll be surprised.
Yeah.
Just because of the offensive talent. This is one of the deepest probably the deepest offensive talent draft that we've had as the BDL.
All right, let me scroll to these extra questions that I got for you now. All right, the first one I was trying to see if you had some time to kind of look at, or maybe you already have this guy on your mind, but looking at the other teams in the previous drafts, was there a player that you've just had your eye on, kind of like my Trey Turner, where you wish you would have had him, and you're just you're either sent offers or you're trying to get this guy from another team?
So I wrote down 2 for this. I wrote down a pitcher and a hitter, and both of them are somewhat more recent. I've tried just about every which way in all trade talks I've had with Josh Kamish Fies to get his boy Kalenic. I've got an outstanding first name, first off, Jared Kalenic, but that kid, the more I watch him, I'll rewatch some of his tape. Just that kid's gonna be a star. So I wish I had Kalenic. I kind of have the poor man's version with Trammell, who I really enjoy, and I say that trying to be funny. But Trammell's gonna be big. And then on the pitching side, Mackenzie Gore. I would love to have that dude. Pitches in San Diego. He's gonna have lots of pitcher-friendly matchups. He's only got to go to Coors Field, probably pitch there twice a year. Coors Field South, he'll pitch twice there, and then he's going to be in Petco, Oracle in San Francisco, and Chavez Ravine. So
Yeah,
those are my
with a stacked lineup coming behind him for the next 5 or 6 years too. So yeah.
With my boy Tatis Jr. leading the way.
Yeah, I think what was Trammell last year, the year before. That was my number one, steal of the draft, and I know Josh immediately agreed with that. So I'm sure you've had the offers, and prospect game's pretty hard, especially when you're contending now. You could trade these guys after a down year, and then out of nowhere, yeah, all right, they're starting to see the ball a little better. They've got more time under their belt, and they just take off. So I can't imagine that you're going to be throwing Trammell out there in any trade offers.
So I offered Trammell in one, and that was to try to trade up in this draft to try to get kind of what I wanted, and speaks to how much talent there is. It was turned down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that draft because I think I was either I was either deployed or somewhere else, and I had to have one of you guys proxy draft for me. And I think it was Josh, and he almost didn't take Trammell for me.
Yeah, I think that's what his note was. Like, yeah, the commish reluctantly selected this pick, so
Reluctantly selected it. So thanks, Josh. Shout out for helping while I was gone.
he's a fair commish. All
Yeah.
right. So I know you've got a lot of picks in this one. So how do you value your future draft picks? I know some of the guys in the league, Carter especially, it's one of those. I don't need him. I'm contending now, or I'm trying to win now. So why do I want to care? Wait, 4 or 5 years to see if these guys pan out. So what is your thought process in the next couple of years? Are you going to try and acquire more now that your roster's pretty much set and these amateur guys are going to be there for a while? Do you start thinking about making more trades?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. I've kind of got this over the hump now. Like you said, my infield is almost set for the next 4 to 5 years. Especially grabbing Alonzo last year. Polar Bear's awesome. Shout out to him for winning me $80 in our PP BDL home run derby. Uh, so I do think I've traded away some of my future picks. I think I have two next year and then another two in 2022. So I may try to look to acquire one or two more, or I may package them up if I think I can package a second or a first rounder in the future to try to get me one of those Flags Fly Forever t-shirts. So I think right now I'm in a win now mode, kind of win now and win for the foreseeable future. So I think I'll use draft picks to my advantage in that aspect.
Yeah, and I don't know, and maybe I just haven't been paying enough attention. If anyone's mindset, any of the other teams and owners, guys, are they starting to hoard more picks, or is it the same guys doing kind of the same thing? I know Josh has got a pretty good grasp on who to go look for those draft picks that maybe they're not trying to do anything, but we just saw the big blockbuster trade where Beast came out of nowhere and he's got that number 2 pick now. I'm sure a lot of people, I was one, immediately texted him like, "Hey, what are you doing with it? Do you even want it?" He had all those extensions that we knew he couldn't keep them all, so maybe he's in that rebuild now mode. So I'm really excited to see what he does with that number 2 pick.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I won't belabor it because I pretty much agree with everything they said about that on the podcast,
Yeah.
Josh and Ryan. But yeah, I think picks will be valued as a whole more valuable with the new rules that we have. That's the note that I wrote. Because you'll have that flexibility in the rookie year to move them up and down. And then the control, I think you'll see the control piece become more valuable simply because those MLB guys, you can't move them. They're on your roster or they're on the waiver wire. So I think that control is going to be very valuable, which is something that I already valued with my prospects. And
Yeah.
I did that with my infield. So I think that would be more valuable in the future.
Yeah, man, if we could just combine your infield with my outfield, we're talking that's 5 or 6 years. Lock it down, give us the banner.
See, I need Trammell. There's a couple outfielders I'm looking at in this draft that I think will contribute in the next 2 years, year or two. I'll have them up, and that'll just kind of keep solidifying. Trammell being one of them.
Yep. All right, so present company excluded. Who do you think does a really good job in the amateur draft?
I mean, strictly based off his own shameless self plug in the last podcast, Ryan.
Yeah.
Because I think he did a really good job actually trading up and getting those stud pitchers that he took. Lizardo and Paddock. I think Josh does a real good valuing his players. And I think as a whole, we've seen everybody kind of shift towards more research and more in-depth analysis. Because even me, I got my book right here, literally laid out all my prospects.
Who's highlighted there? Who was that?
Yeah, right. Who was that? Yeah, so I think Ryan C does a good job. Josh Kamish does a good job, and then I think wholly underrated. I think Irby is going to be a force, and it's probably a couple years away just based off his roster. But holy cow, some of those prospects he's got studs.
Yep. I mean, I can't imagine Wander being able to do what everyone wants him to do, but there's nothing, there's no negatives, anything. I go to Fangraphs and they've got this future value tracker ranker. He's the only 80 I've ever seen out of the 80 scale, so
He's the next A-Rod. I don't know what
yeah.
else to come. Wonder Kid. So Yeah, I would shout out to Irby. So if you want to get rid of any of your top guys, hit me up.
All right. So I think everyone knows you're more of the shortstop whisperers, what I would like to call you. But other than shortstop, and you can even kind of explain how you evaluate and look for shortstop guys too. But what other positions are you really looking at, or have you really targeted?
Yeah, shortstop. Goodness, that has been my bread and butter. And kind of accidentally, I think it started with my man Bay Turner. Obviously, got me in love with the power speed combo, and it's just continued. But the other one that I kind of value is the outfield. Very, very similar to you. So some of mine have been hits, some of mine have been misses. Gallo being one. I traded for Joey Gallo because I thought he was going to be a star. But the way I look at that, the top three fantasy players you have right now, all outfielders, and that's kind of absurd to me. And as you keep rolling out the top 10, like it's pretty heavy on outfield. So that was one. I actually we had talked a couple years back about me getting Charlie Blackmon because Charlie Blackmon just absurd. The dude, all he does, he wake up on Christmas and hit. All he does is hit. So that, and then to a lesser extent, starting pitching. Because I have guys like Jarrell Cotton who have done absolute dick for me, and now he's like a fifth starter for the Cubs. But then I have a Puck who's like, this dude's probably going to be the next Kershaw. So those are mine. You can't go wrong with shortstops because if I get a power speed young shortstop, somebody's going to trade for him.
Yeah, it just takes longer for pitchers, right? So it's one of those, like you'd said, Ryan grabbing those like three or four aces. We could be looking at this in a couple years, and he's sitting here with four studs. He could be sitting in my situation where I've got Scherzer, Sale. Yeah, they're a bunch. They're a lot older and they're more expensive, but having the luxury of an ace on a cheap contract is just something that I don't think we've been able to really see yet. Yeah, Josh has got a sneaky good staff on very cheap contracts, but if Snell can't stay healthy, then all of a sudden it's one of those like, all right, well now we're sitting here trying to find a replacement for him. But I really do think that Ryan's team could be in a couple years in that perfect situation where he could just go ham on all of these hitters and almost have like a reverse beast team with young pitching still.
Yeah, and at the same time, if not, he takes one of those studs, flips one, and then that wins him the championship, similar to what you did with trading your young outfielders for those MLB elite pitchers, and then flags fly forever.
Yep, yep. All right, so a couple quick ones. Thoughts on expanding the minor league roster? I know a lot of talk went into it before we really started kicking off this season on how can we replace and refill our rosters. Do you think we should be expanding more, or maybe having an extra round or two in this type, in our amateur draft?
Yeah, so that's exactly what I wrote down. Big underline on mine was maybe, and then it was if we do that, we need to expand the draft. So if we expand the draft, what is the limit? Do we do a 5-round draft instead of 3, and then we make it 25 minor spots plus? I don't know. I really don't. I'm for it. I'm all for it. It's just one of those. How do we skin this chicken, if you will, to use an army term?
All right. The we've talked about it a little bit, but the new rule change where we've finally started to make it more minor league centric for the minors. We got rid of the three options, so we can't sit here and stream as much as we used to. You in favor of it? You see it as a step in the right direction to help our minor league team get better, and the strategy is a little bit more important now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. I like it. And the other note that I wrote down along with this question was it requires more strategy. So you're going to have to be a little more strategic with your draft picks. You're going to have to be a little bit more strategic with who you signed during the UFA periods, who you signed in your RFA periods. Because if they don't work out, they can kind of burn you. I'm kind of dealing with that right now. I'm hoping for some bounce back on Nick Pivetta. This was a guy I was really high on a few years ago. I tried to trade Josh for his RFA rights, I think 2 or 3 years ago. And now he's kind of just sucking up $11 on my roster, and he's out of options. So one of those. So I think you'll see, like I said earlier, a higher value for the rookies. So some of those guys that Ryan, old Team 4, had grabbed will probably net an extra player in the deal just because they'll be more valuable. So overall, I like it. I like it. It's more gamesmanship. I didn't really stream pitchers too much. I will every now and then, but I know that kind of messes up like you and Ryan C, for example. You guys stream like a motherfucker, so
Yeah, we'll see how this year goes without that, and I've got a bunch of aces that hopefully, if they can stay healthy, I won't really have to worry about finding those extra pitchers. But did you have anything else that you wanted to bring up or talk about for this upcoming amateur draft?
for the amateur draft, I was gonna give one or two, probably just one of my later round sleepers,
All right.
and that would be one of my highlights in here. And it's actually funny because you and I spoke about him, and it is DL Hall. I already said I hate Baltimore prospects, but man, those big lefties, I got a soft spot for them. From taking Kershaw, bidding him up to getting Puck, I just love big lefties. So that's my not necessarily sleeper, but that's one of my late round targets, if you will.
Yeah, I'm definitely probably going to erase this part of the video mainly because I'm not on a lot of pitchers and I've got those two, ass in third round picks and I'm hoping one of them falls, but yeah, that's definitely one of those that yep, I got to start looking at maybe making that move up to the second round to
I got I got one more to use then.
all right.
That's fine. One guy I'm going to target probably later in the rounds, and I may regret saying this, is Hunter Bishop. He's a homegrown Arizona State boy, outfielder, college bat. Going to play in San Francisco, which is never a good thing unless you're Barry Bonds. But Hunter Bishop, I like the outfield skills. Probably a corner outfield guy, but might provide some value later on.
Right on. I'll keep it in. I mean, I like I said when we had talked about it, I don't. I'm not taking him at 12, but I can't imagine him falling to the third round. So.
But I fucking hate Baltimore prospects.
Yeah, I mean that whole division, right? Like you almost hope, man, he's young enough. Maybe he shows that extra potential, and maybe he can get traded somewhere else that really needs him. So.
But does he end up like Matthew Boyd?
Yeah.
And he's good, but he gets absolutely no help offensively.
Boyd's got his own problems with just serving up softballs every game, but I'll take the 200 Ks.
Yeah, amen.
All right. So, just kind of closing out, wrapping up. You and I are in a pretty unique situation where we get to serve in the Army. So, everyone, please thank us for our service.
You're welcome for my service.
And you had said that you had been when you were deployed, you had to have someone proxy draft. What is it like to one be in the military and constantly PCSing? I mean, I've done drafts at 2 in the morning in Korea last year. I've done drafts here at like a hotel because we're sitting, waiting for our house. What's your experience been like for fantasy and fantasy baseball in this league, being in the Army?
So I think I was lucky because when we first started this, like you'd mentioned before, you and I worked in the Space Missile Defense Command Operations Center together, so we kind of had a little more time. Some of those night shifts where it's 3 in the morning and you got nothing else to do but try to stay awake, guarding America's freedom, and searching out baseball prospects. But yeah, the last couple years, for sure. I mean, last year you just said it, I was in a hotel too, so. Here I am in the Hyatt down on Waikiki waiting for a house to open up, and I'm trying to do a fantasy draft. Year before that, I was in Qatar, so I was in the Middle East. Yeah, it's difficult, but man, is it worth it. The time differences are amazing. Even here, for lack of a better term, I work in a secure area, so my phone is locked up the moment before I even step foot in the building. So I always come out to 60 plus text messages. So it's difficult. But I feel like that forces me to do more research at the same time.
Awesome, yeah. So for everyone out there watching this, Jared and I are not seriously saying thank us for our service. It's a military joke because yes, we do great and wonderful things, but we also get compensated and paid very well to do that stuff. So it was a joke more than anything.
And we're living in paradise.
Yeah, we're in Hawaii, man.
We're 10 minutes apart, so yeah, it's really tough. Somebody's got to do this life, so might as well be Eddie and I.
All right, so the last thing, during the RFA, you were landing, coming off an airplane, hopping in a car. Do you have anything to say for the haters out there? For one, having Megan have to help you and do some stuff, and two, the kids factor here. I mean, I'm sitting in my daughter's room right now because she's got four other girls over for a sleepover. So what are your experiences like, on the family aspect of trying to still, run your team?
Yeah, I think that airport run home was just hilarious all in one because it was just it's chaos in the car. I have three boys, my oldest is 7, then I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, so it's chaos in the back seat. And I'm like, yes, I want to keep Lorenzen, and like he's a relief pitcher who's going to get me some holds and the occasional save when Iglesias. So I'm trying to handcuff the guy, but mashing the button.
We got him. We got him.
Yeah, we got him. And so I'm just driving, like I'm in the suburban driving, and then we get to the stoplight. I look over and I just see Josh like, what the fuck? Like, get this shit together, guys. So I'm just embarrassed as shit, and I'm like, I'm never gonna live this down. But yeah, so it's awesome. I bring my kids into it. My middle son, he's more of the gamer, the 5-year-old. He plays Call of Duty by himself, and he's a stud. He will play MLB The Show with me. So my oldest loves Charlie Blackmon because he has a beard. So I'm trying to massage that. They all have Rockies jerseys, of course. Not as cool as Dad's signed Matt Holiday jersey, by the way. Subtle flex. But yeah, I try to expose it to the kids. And they're all asleep right now, so I don't have to be in my son's room while they're playing.
All right, Jared, man, I appreciate the time you took. I know we were both running around trying to get stuff done. So thank you for taking the time to enlighten us on how your prospect scouting goes, and I wish you the best of luck. Hopefully, you don't pick who I want at the 10th spot, and hopefully you get who you want in that second and third rounds as well.
Yep, I fully plan on winning the draft with my second round, and it's a pleasure. I look forward to making my podcast debut as well as making my YouTube debut. So, yeah, hopefully we got a lot of good content, and look forward to doing all this stuff.
Awesome, thanks, man. Hey, after the draft, we'll definitely have to sit down and get some cervezas on the beach. Maybe we can start talking about the results, and then go do some team capsules on the farm
Oh
next
yeah,
couple
I'm
weeks.
super down. I've got my notebook already with notes for after the draft, and then I'll write down if we don't do the live stream we were talking about. I'll write down who I think stole the draft or great pick. I'll have live reactions for sure.
All right, thanks, Jared.
All right, bro.
Take care. All right, that was Jared sharing us his knowledge on the amateur farm systems. Look forward to having him on again. Thanks everyone for sticking around watching it. Hopefully, I'll get this up in the next couple minutes. See you.